Today, you got to be weather aware. May in Oklahoma, you know what that means. We had 9 tornadoes touch down on Monday. Just got the rating for the Seminole tornado, rated an EF1 with winds up to 110 miles per hour. This morning, we've had moderate to heavy rain across portions of Oklahoma, especially eastern Oklahoma County into Lincoln County, Creek County, all the way down to I-40. And we do have aerial flood advisories in effect from Sparks back up to Bristow, Welty, including the Little River down near Tecumseh. Also watching for those rivers in eastern portions of the state to start to rise, because we're expecting a lot more water. Round after round after round of rain and storms is going to be possible over the next 24 hours, giving parts of the state 2 to 4, other areas 3 to 6 inches of rain. Today, what we're watching is a storm system out to the west. This low pressure will lift to the north. Still a lot of questions in exactly how far north it makes it. Today's one of those days you've got to stay plugged in. You've got to check back with the forecast a couple times into the afternoon, because it's all about that boundary. If you're south of that, you're going to be warm, unstable, game on for the kind of wide open for severe weather. If you're north of that boundary, your threat is so much lower. And the rain this morning is what we're kind of watching to monitor. That kind of depends on how far north that system makes it. So heavy rain continuing to the northeast, but we have dried out completely in central, southern, and western Oklahoma, and that boundary is lifted north quickly. Thunderstorms ongoing from Boley to Welty to Okemah. Could have some quarter-size hail. That storm's borderline severe right there in Okfuskee County, heading up towards Welty and Okmulgee. Scattered showers and storms in north central Oklahoma, and dry now across much of the state. But it's still foggy. It's very soupy down in southern Oklahoma. Dense fog in pockets, and that is the warm front that's lifting in. The air's cool right now. 40 and 50 degree dew points in central Oklahoma. Down to the south, lower and mid 60s now. Temperatures will warm. Northern Oklahoma, you're going to stay in the 50s. And look at the stark contrast in the temperatures today. Lower mid 50s versus 60s and 70s, and then 80s down to the south. Now, if this boundary ends up in northern Oklahoma County, it's game on for the South Metro. If this boundary ends up, more Norman, it's Pauls Valley to the south. And that's still in question. Exactly where is it? The dry line will set up today out in the Texas Panhandle, and it is likely that sparks isolated supercells. So what we're expecting is starting about 2 o'clock, isolated storms will be possible. Severe, and we may have a few rounds, especially for folks out in western Oklahoma for some of the higher end impacts. Looking at some of the rotating storms, these storms will be supercells, which means they will rotate, and those rotating storms kind of isolated 3, 4 o'clock coming up towards central Oklahoma, and then beast of storms out in western portions of the Texas Panhandle that make a run at western Oklahoma into the afternoon and evening. Okay, and this will all have to be monitored, and we may have isolated storms down to the southeast as well, along and behind that boundary. And we've got to monitor it closely, because the way the low-level winds are going to be today behind that boundary, it's a high threat for a tornado with any storm that forms in this zone. Now, you get up to that boundary, and the second the storm crosses it, it will lose that tornado threat. But where is that boundary? That's why you can see it's kind of a razor fine edge, and the dividing line is along and south of I-40. Hail today north of the boundary, even though there's not much instability. I think we could still get some quarter-size hail, golf ball size hail in central Oklahoma, and down to the south, tennis ball to baseballs would be possible. Look at the storm churning. You don't have to be a meteorologist at all, right, to look at that and know what's happening. Big, powerful storm, moisture being pulled into it, strong jet stream winds. And here's the latest on the timing. Now, this will still change and shift some, but this particular data set has a pretty good handle on the morning rain, which is moving on out. Thunderstorms try to fire about 2, 3 o'clock, kind of isolated in nature, back to the west. Those move up into central Oklahoma and then weaken. How strong are they when they get here? I think they would still be severe. And then we watch out west for those big time storms making their way in from the Texas Panhandle. Those storms form more of a line into the late evening, and we get heavy rain and storms by 10 o'clock, still severe, and more rain overnight. I told you, we've got waves of rain and storms that we're expecting, and they will all produce heavy, heavy rain. Flooding a big concern. So this afternoon, it's a 40% chance of storms. Heading into the evening, a 100% chance. And tonight and tomorrow morning, a 100% chance of rain. Much cooler tomorrow, 60s, 70 on Friday. And then our next chance of storms will be Monday into next week. That's your 9-day. We've got more for you right after this.